Hello. Hello, everyone. Hope you guys can hear me. Should be able to. How y'all doing? Hope you're doing well. Let me give a second here to manage all the different applications and screens and everything. But I want to switch the screen right now. Oops, that's the wrong monitoring device. Damn it. Let's try that again. Perfect. Hopefully you can hear that transition sound, because I have just switched. Let me check. I've just switched to OBS instead of Streamlabs OBS. So hopefully everything goes smooth. The chat seems to work as well, which is great. I mean, it's still somewhat buggy, but everything seems to work. How are you guys doing? Virtual setup, yes. We'll talk about that in a second. Hello, iPattern. Hello, Tiram, Arston, Fork, Taki Mendo, Monstera. How are you guys doing? Evending, GKL. Hello, hello. Hope you guys are doing well. The character keeps jumping a bit. There we go. That should fix it. The holiness goes back. Yes, I had to skip a week. I meant like jumping up and down. Are you guys seeing that? Let me check out what that is about, because that should be happening. What's the other hand? Hopefully I don't knock anything over. Hello, there's the other hand. I'll put that right there. Okay, is it more stable now, please? Looks a bit more stable now. Yes, perfect. Okay, sweet. How's the VR treating you? Great, it's treating me great. Are you still doing the Blender tutorials for the Patreons? I was hoping to become one as soon as I'm done with exams. I'm not doing any at the moment because I don't want to add unnecessary noise to what's already in the Patreon. And there's quite a bit of very good information on there. And the streams that I've done so far basically set you up for what you really have to do most. What I will do is a poll. So I'll let people decide on what they kind of want the subject to be. But so far, I don't want to add noise to the quality information on the Patreon. That's why if I tend to do less streams, it's because I don't, there's already like, I think we've just finished the 35th exclusive production live stream, which was about the granular oscillator. And it's like, are we going to end up at an exclusive production live stream number 100? If anyone like joins the Patreon from that point on, like, they will not have enough time to watch all the live streams in just a month. So I'm trying to quality control some of the live streams, basically. Gotcha will join nonetheless. I guess there's plenty of stuff over there already. Yes, tons. Like 35 exclusive live streams. I think 5 or 6 Blender live streams. Obviously, like over 20 total racks when it comes to Ableton and Snap Heap, and over 15 sample packs. Yeah, a lot of stuff. Skins as well. Unreleased music, some of that as well. But yeah, have you ever tried VCV Rack or Cardinal? If you have, what do you think of it? I think I've tried VCV Rack once, but I was like way too young to understand all the modular cable stuff back then. But yeah, let's get into today's topic. And what I wanted to talk about is my new setup. That's one of the things. And I wanted to talk about a set of speakers and a set of a set of, one set of a subwoofer that is absolutely unique. So I'm going to pull it up right here. So I'm going to turn off the music. All right, let me switch to the main screen. Might be a little bit further away, so let me quickly fix that. Can you guys hear the transition sound? Because I am trying out this whole setup now. The focal length is set, but I can go to camera and size. There we go. Is that a bit better? A little bit less, please. There we go. Oops. Sweet, okay. That's good. Sweet, okay. There you go. And then I'll do the switch. That was clean. Okay, sweet. So let's talk about what I've been doing. What's been going on, right? I'm gonna open up this over here and then this over here. Okie dokie. Let me quickly check the chat. Live. I'm very interested to hear more about this setup of yours. I will talk about it in a second. Hello, Mackie. Hello, Doug. Hello, Tiram. Fork. Of course, I've already said hello to you. Omnicorum, Junkrat. How are you guys doing? You guys are doing well. Let's talk about the setup that I'm currently on. So what I currently have in front of me is currently is one virtual screen at a time, and I can switch between them with a shortcut. And okay, so I'll explain it this way, right? I'm going to show you some pictures, and then you can kind of see what's going on. So on Twitter, I posted about this sub right here, which is the I'll go over that in a second, actually, before we get into that. I want to talk about this picture that I posted. So this is the a little Blender render sort of that I did, thinking about a sort of setup that works entirely with VR virtual displays. And not only that, but I found two particularly good speaker sets and a subwoofer that is actually the size of, let's say, like a football, which is not that big, that delivers down to 33 hertz, which is like the lowest musical subnote that you should or would or could hear, technically speaking. And on top of that, the VR headset that you can see in this render is wireless, so it doesn't use cables. Obviously, the screens, as you can see them right here, they're projected, so they're not real, right? They're not real cables. They are virtual cables that are streamed from your computer or your Mac, it could be both, to a virtual headset, and then they are placed in 3D space inside the virtual headset. The tracking on the helmet looks badass, a lot more responsive. Thank you very much. I'm doing well, by the way. Moving boxes sucks. Yeah, I know. I hate it. I'm going to have to do that later this year as well. I'm going to hate it. It's been a while since I've been able to catch one of these. Sweet. That's great to hear. Anyways, so the idea was that, and the thing is, I like to, I like to be in like a person of optimization, right? You guys know this with all the racks that I'm doing and stuff. I like to, you could say I'm somewhat lazy, and I want to save as much work, may it be physical or virtual, as possible. So I like to optimize things. And one of the things that I've been thinking about was screen real estate, right? How much space on your desk are you spending on a monitor or a display compared to what could be on there otherwise? And for people as well, is like most displays, if we just pick obviously I can't write, so I'm going to try to not write anything right now because I don't have pass-through with this app. But how many monitors are usually not high enough, right? So obviously most monitors have a certain height to them, a maximum height, if they're even adjustable at all. And in most cases, the distance between laying your arms on the table and the monitor height is usually not high enough. And this is especially a thing, of course, with laptops, right? If you are working on a laptop, and some of you will probably have done so, or some of you actually just work with laptops, you will know that it's pretty miserable to work on a laptop. Because if you're working with just the screen that the laptop provides, it's not a great experience. Especially because you go into this like sort of like banana motion, or this banana position, where it's also very straining on your neck. Now, this setup allows for you to use virtual reality to put the displays into any position that you physically would like to. Which means that even on a laptop, you can just basically use the typing keyboard and maybe the mouse pad or external mouse, of course. But you could be looking at in a completely different direction, because in a virtual reality, you can obviously place the screen anywhere. Now, if any of you guys have ever tried virtual reality, you will know that there's a perception of size. So that's another big plus, is that you can essentially have screens that are as big as a TV, right? And with this one particular app called Immersed, you can not only have one screen at a time, but you can have up to, I think, 5 screens at a time. And you can once again place them anywhere you'd like. On top of that, you can actually curve them to any specific amount that you would like. I'm sure we could pull up probably some kind of YouTube video on what that looks like. I'm actually going to do that right now, I think. I'm going to show you at least that app, because they have a pretty cool. Now they use some melodic dubstep in that track, but they had some pretty cool. You find the right immersed. I can't see my keyboard with this one. No, that's one more to the right. Immersed. There we go. VR. Okay. They had a pretty cool little video on working in VR. So I'm just going to play this thing for you guys, and then you can kind of see what it's like, right? Of course, with some YouTube.
Probieren Sie jetzt.
Oh, that's German ads. Okay, here we go. So obviously they're showing it off in a way that is in some cases maybe a little less realistic, but most of the stuff that you see in this video is actually kind of true. So I'm just going to play it for you. So for example, here you can see he's having a four monitor setup right now, and they're all pretty much curved. And the thing that you can also see, and that's also the case with the Pico 4 that I'm currently using, is that you have pass-through. So the Pico 4 has a camera right in the middle, I believe, somewhere around there. That is used in primarily for pass-through, for when you, for example, leave your virtual space or your virtual guardian space, that is called. That's what it's called. Within the VR space. If you've ever used like an Oculus Rift or anything like that, you know that you can like draw your sort of wall, your virtual wall, and if you exceed the limits there physically, then it'll turn on the pass-through mode, and you can see the camera, and you know where you're at. But Immersed actually uses this camera, especially in the Pico 4, to project the real world essentially behind the screens. Whoa. Now, I would not be cooking with this, and I probably wouldn't be playing drums either, because unless the pass-through is low latency, like 0 latency, then maybe, but other than that, probably not. It's like 30 FPS. Ignore the dubstep. Those are the 3D virtual spaces right there. Oh god, it's Spectral, right? Presets. If Immerse is watching this, I can get you some stuff if you want to do more of these promotional videos. There's also workspaces, so like if you have other people who are also using Immerse, you can actually meet up in 3D space. But that's not really what most people use it for. I actually know that one VR preset. That one VR sample. Oh god, I actually like made a shitpost song like years ago using that exact sample. I remember it. Well, that's for example the menu right there you can see. So the Pico currently doesn't have hand tracking support in Immerse just yet, but it's coming. So it's actually tracking your hands. You don't have to use any controllers, which is kind of nuts. That one looked like Infect, funnily enough. And then this is the sort of the most important thing, is I think this is a 3D projection of a MacBook laptop, but what you can do is you can do a pass-through portal for your keyboard. So you can actually, like for example, right now I have a Galaxy behind me, so around me is just Galaxy. And you can actually do a cutout in the virtual space, and you can just have your keyboard visible. I can actually show you all this in a second as well. But yeah, this is currently what I'm using now. There's still some issues. It's still not fully performant yet. It's almost there. I wish the screens were individually like 90 Hertz, possibly. They're currently 60, but for working purposes, this is essentially the app that you would want to be using on the Quest 2 or the Pico 4 or the upcoming Quest 3, which will hopefully have some OLED displays. Let me quickly switch the screen here so I can see the chat and see what you guys are saying. VR Starry, my ears. How about my ears? Is it loud? How much is the latency right now? Not bad. Not bad at all. You can totally work with it. There's also this other app called Virtual Desktop, which currently only projects one screen, but that thing is insane. It's a little bit clearer too, but more importantly, it's 90 Hertz. So everything feels incredibly snappy. I think the maximum latency or the lowest you can go to is like 30 millihertz when it comes to just the mouse. But since that one projects 90 Hertz screens, it basically feels like maybe like a 10 to 20 millisecond delay for the mouse, which is totally doable. So it's as if you were, streaming it via Wi-Fi, which is essentially what's happening. This is all streaming wirelessly. Can you work for just as long with using virtual reality as you would without, meaning no dizziness or anything? Yeah, no dizziness. It depends. Some people can adjust to VR better, some can't. But generally speaking, if you're just focused on the screens, it really doesn't make much of a difference because you're not really focused on the 3D aspect of the VR headset. This is more so just so you can actually project the screens. But yeah, how much time did this take to set up, including the research? A lot, probably a month, I would say, if not more. 1 or 2 months. But there's other stuff that comes to it as well. Currently, I have the Pico 4 on, so that's the VR headset that I'm currently using. And I also have, that one's wireless because I have a battery pack for it. So it's like a little magnetic holster for a battery. So I have 3 battery packs. I just let them snap magnetically onto it, and then there's a cable that goes right to the Pico 4, which just means it's charging it without having to be wired, which is really cool. And more importantly, I have 3 of them, so I can always charge the other 2. When this one runs out, I'll have another one that's fully charged, and I don't have to think about that, which is great. How light is the Pico 4? The main issue I've had with VR is that my neck gets tired from holding the VR. It's incredibly light. Honestly, it's probably as heavy as maybe headphones, if not less. they've done some insane stuff with the Pico 4. Now, once again, maybe Quest 3 will be better because it's coming out this year. And the other option might also be AR glasses, right? So instead of using VR, we can use AR glasses, which are projected OLED screens, glasses on just regular glass. I can get into that in a second as well. But yeah, so more importantly, as you can see, that's the setup right there. And so at the bottom, you can see my typing keyboard. That's with the red LEDs. You can see the Lumi Key Studio, which is an MPE keyboard with 2 octaves that can do pitch bend and all that kind of stuff. It's a really cool keyboard. And then I have my mouse. I have the wireless III headphones on the right. So the cool part is, once again, the headset is the VR headset is wireless. Then the headphones are also wireless, so you can just stand up, go somewhere else if you wanted to. I can tap twice on the Pico and switch to pass-through mode, so I can actually see just the camera, which is great if I need to like drink something, which I will actually do right now. It might mess with the tracking of my helmet. But as you can see, once it's caught back up, which it will do in a second. There we go. Why don't you show your face when we see your face before? That's because of the branding. I didn't really have much of a branding before, and I'm trying to stay consistent with the branding. There's no no gatekeeping the way other, let's say, YouTubers or VTubers do it, where they start off with never showing the face, so that becomes something special. I don't quite care about that. I always liked sort of VTuber kind of ideas, because there's so much creativity that you can have. As you can see, for example, with this helmet, right? If I, let me switch the scene here so you guys can see this. I can go with orange LEDs. I can go with a white shader for the metal. This one might take a while to load in. There we go. I can go with a gold shader and orange, right? I can do a bunch of cool shit with this that I would not be able to do with my actual human head. But yeah, that's one of the reasons, because there's so much more stuff you can do as a VTuber. Anyways, so let's go back to the setup. As you can see, we're not wasting space on real monitors. We're also not wasting money on real monitors, because we have my setup is actually a 1440p screen, and then to the left and right of it, there's a 1080p each. And that's actually what I'm running right now as well as I'm streaming. I have the main 1440p screen is the one that I'm streaming on OBS. And what I'm actually doing is I'm using, and I can show this on Discord here. I think I had it in the main chat. I'm actually using these HDMI dummies. So I can actually create these virtual screens on the PC rather than having the program do it. So it stays consistent for different types of software that I can try out. And then on top of that, I initially still had the small 6-inch screen that I just had to, open the programs that I needed. But I actually just got the Stream Deck Mini that just has 6 buttons that you can assign to different programs or functionalities. And if I start up Windows and I log in with my password, obviously I won't see anything, but I know my password. I'll just have to press enter, type in my password, press enter, essentially. I can just click the button here for immersed if I want to work. So that's the one I use for working, because it has pass-through, so I can actually see my keyboard. And funnily enough, the pass-through quality isn't the greatest. It's like an older iPhone quality. But what's crazy is that you really only have to somewhat see the keyboard to be able to then use your peripheral vision to then just be able to type like you usually would, which is really crazy how that works. So you don't even need a camera that good. You have the Immersed app. Then I have the virtual desktop app, which I actually use for gaming. So when I'm gaming and I only need one screen, I have that open, which I actually have open right now as well for streaming, because it's more performant, and I can actually use a Steam VR while I'm using virtual desktop. So hence the tracking, right? I also have a volume changer over here, which is quite nice. So that's basically the VR setup. And talking about the positives of this whole setup is one of the major things is, of course, money, right? And not only that, but like the physical possibilities of this. these are essentially TV-sized screens, and I can place them anywhere I want. That's nuts. That would cost you a lot of money, not only for the screens, but just being able to place them anywhere. If you're in a small apartment, you can't do it, right? If you're on a hotel room with your MacBook, you can't do it, or your Windows laptop, you can't do it. But here you can bring multiple virtual screens with you anywhere. And especially at home, you have the comfort of not having to, for example, if you move at some point, you do not have to carry these big screens with you that could potentially break as well. So you save a lot of money this way. Who created your helmet, Nasco? I did. I actually spent, I think I spent like 3 weeks modeling this thing in 2021, early 2021. That was pain. I will probably have to, but I would like to never ever model again. That was not fun. Hey Nasco, can you tell us how did you start learning about sound design, like learning using effects, distortion, saturation, compression? It was a mixture of just self-taught and obviously YouTube information, but I've noticed that a lot of YouTube information is kind of throwaway information that you can't really use. So it's always like starting off with some information that you have from online and then experimenting and trying to see if those things actually hold value and truth. And then if they don't, you notice, oh, things are actually like more like this, then obviously you're sort of learning from the process. So you're researching essentially, right? A whole bunch of researching. All of these must be quite hard for your PC, right? No, not at all. Not at all. Let me actually check. On Task Manager, I'm going to open this up. Where's my Task Manager? Where are you at? Huh? Look how many fucking programs I have open. Is it over here? Let me check. That's the tracker right there. Where's the Task Manager, brother? It's probably behind OBS. Yeah. So the virtual desktop streamer, which is the program that I'm using. I'm actually going to pull this up over here so you guys can see this. There we go. This is the virtual desktop streamer that I'm using to stream the free screens onto my VR headset. It's taking up 13%. So it's very, very little percent of my GPU. So it's really not taking a whole bunch. And then I'm also using the virtual desktop streamer to stream Steam VR. And then I have this program here called Luxor, which will then track. Well, it's moving my feet as well, which is really strange. So I can use that from Blender, which is really cool. So yeah, it's totally not hard on your GPU. And the great thing as well is if you pair this up with a MacBook, for example, the new M1 and M2 chips, they have a really good GPU in them, like an integrated GPU, and it'll run flawlessly there as well, which is great. But yeah, anyways, so as you can see, this is the setup that I've sort of been researching, developing, and now I finally got it. So what I'm using is the Pico 4. That's the headset I'm using. It's great. It's not too expensive. I think it's like 300 quid or $300, which would be probably just one 1440 like IPS screen. So good luck getting 3 of them and then having them the size of a TV screen. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about is the speakers. So you guys maybe remember that I used to use Yamahas. Is it Yamahas or Yamahas? It's one of the two. Either way, I used to use the HS7, but now I'm using the iLoud Micros, iLoud Micro monitors, and they're great. They reproduce the highs and mids really well. They sound actually insane. I actually have a little picture here of the setup here. These are the iLoud Micros right here. And then the middle thing here is the Audio Engine S6. And this thing is nuts. As you can see, this is barely any higher than the micro monitors. And once again, those are micro monitors. So those are like the size of some iPhones. But they reproduce frequencies in a way that sounds pretty much identical or like better in some cases to the HS7s because they're less boomy, right? They have great mids, they have great highs, but they only go down to, which is kind of crazy to say, they only, in exclamation marks, or in what are they, duck feet, whatever they're called, they only go down to like 45 to 50 hertz, which is insane. If we actually pull up Ableton here, actually there's a little thing here that's called. I need to see my screen. Hertz to note. So you can actually see, for example, if we go over here, and this is a little cheat sheet for frequencies and hertz, and this is kind of how you can see and predict how low a frequency or how low a speaker is going to go, right? So the lowest we want to go for is 32.70. That's the lowest C note that I will accept in any song. I think the highest C note, the C at 65 hertz, in a lot of cases, especially if it's saturated and has upper harmonics, will feel very invasive, I feel like, in a mix down. While the lower C is still very much acceptable and still audible in a lot of systems, especially headphones. So 32.70 hertz, which is roughly 33 hertz, is the lowest the speaker needs to go, or the subwoofer, in this case, needs to go. And funnily enough, and most people that actually have had subwoofers in the past will know this, physically it's very, very, very hard. That did not copy. Physically, it's very, very hard for a subwoofer to go as low as 33 hertz. But Audio Engine has done it. They've made a subwoofer that goes down to 33 hertz. This thing is as big as 2 soda cans. This thing is literally designed to be on your desktop, on your desk, essentially, right? And I find that absolutely nuts, that this thing is able to reproduce frequencies down to 33 hertz. That is massive. It also has a crossover from 40 to 130 hertz, so it goes probably up to 130 hertz. I turned that all the way up because I use my own little crossover DSP at 70 hertz. But this thing is absolutely ridiculous. There's nothing else like it. If you search for a 6-inch woofer that can go down to 33 hertz, good luck finding one that is a non-premium subwoofer for like at least 1.5K. Right? You won't find one. This thing can do it. And people will say, and this is a sort of a common thing that I've noticed in the music production community, I would say, and if you try to search for these sort of topics, you will notice that there is a bunch of audiophiles, that's usually what they're called, that will fight to the death to make you believe that you have to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on acoustic treatment and crazy subwoofers and crazy speakers to get a decent frequency response and frequency reproduction, which you don't. And I find it a little bit of a disservice because I feel like there's a bit of like a financial gatekeeping of sorts happening in that realm. And obviously, and I have to thank you guys as well, all the people watching from the Patreon. I'm only able to research and experiment with these things because of you, because I'm able to sort of throw the money at this stuff and see if it sticks and if it works. Of course, usually when things don't work, I just send it back. But the issue is that a lot of people, they will go online, they will have a lower budget and they will see, oh shit, I just can't get that sound, right? I just can't get a good speaker system because everyone on the internet is telling me to spend thousands and thousands and thousands on people who will design an acoustic treatment room for you, and then you will have to buy acoustic treatment like bass traps and acoustic foam or dispersion foams and diffusion room? And then they will tell you, oh, well, if you have a perfectly square room, then it doesn't work. That's like the worst thing that you can possibly do. They will tell you to get an even bigger subwoofer because those can even go even lower without really acknowledging the fact that that is just not feasible financially and when it comes to room modes and all that kind of stuff. And I find it to be very, very annoying that, especially for some reason, these types of people, they love to argue. Like if you go to any forums, someone will ask a very sort of a sort of beginner question or sort of an intermediate question, and they will be quite nice about the question. And then the people who reply, they always have this like underlying tone of like, as if you're like a bot, right? Now, I haven't ever posted on forums, but I've noticed this, is that a lot of these people who will give advice, they will usually give advice that is unobtainable, and they will kind of douchey about it too. Sounds like Reddit. Yeah, basically, right? But it's not just Reddit. It's also a bunch of like music production forums. It's the same thing. So I wanted to go out of the way to find a speaker setup that will actually work in pretty much any person's room. And the only way you can usually achieve that, and that's obviously there's a physical limitation, or Twitter. Yeah, basically, right? That's just purchase copium. That's true. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people who will tell you to buy that you need a $3,000 subwoofer, they have probably bought that subwoofer and they just need it to cope, right? To be able to keep it. People who answer questions on any forums are 99% egoists. That's true. Some of them will definitely want to help, but I've noticed that the people who actually have the knowledge will usually not go out of their way to post in forums, and the ones that feel like they are researching themselves and they need to sort of cope and reassure themselves by sounding very, very intelligent while writing their replies. It's kind of nuts. It's a very, very ugly space, to be honest. So I'm very, very grateful for all the people on the Patreon who've been supportive and been subscribing, because it's allowed me to, play around with these setups that will work for a lot of people. And this is all on a budget, right? This is like not expensive stuff. If we talk about how much you will have to waste in acoustic treatment, if you were to get, bigger speakers, if you were to get bigger subwoofers, that's just not feasible for like 95% of the people, right? You must buy a $5,000 Avid Pro Tools interface, or you're not legit. Yeah. Or you have to get this $10,000 mic. Even though mics, there's a bit of a difference there, because obviously the quality will differ. But with anything in life, the more extreme you go, the lower the results. Or what was it called? Diminishing returns, right? I tried Pro Tools, and the only thing it's so annoying to work with, in my opinion. Yeah. But yeah, anyways, so this is the Audio Engine S6. It's a 6-inch subwoofer that manages to go down to 33 hertz. So it's literally the subwoofer that you need, because it can cover the whole range of frequencies that you need. But what we need to also talk about is how to use this thing. So you can have it on a desk. And the other thing is, if you take a look at the back of this thing, you can see that it's a closed subwoofer. This is another plus point for the subwoofer, because it means it doesn't exhaust to the back, and you don't lose all of those frequencies in the room. This is really important, because the back is closed. This means that you basically get most of the output of the subwoofer directly delivered to you. That's also why the company itself is clearly showing that, or promoting the idea that you should be using this on the desk. The way I have set it up in here, and the way I've posted it here, you can see that it's actually right in the middle. For me, the subwoofer is where previously my monitor was, as you can see right there. And I think that's pretty funny. So I've actually replaced my monitor with the subwoofer, because obviously I'm using virtual monitors right now, so I don't need a monitor. But what you could also do, because this thing is like roughly 20 centimeters high, so it's not high at all, what you could also do is get a monitor stand. So you can just get a monitor stand that you adjust onto either the wall behind you or onto the desk. And you get another 5 to 6 to 7 centimeters higher of the original stand for your monitor. And this thing can fit right below it. They are directly in front of my face. Yes, exactly. So the iLouds and the subwoofer are directly under my face. So I'm getting the full frequency spectrum delivered right to me. Rather than, for example, having the subwoofer below the desk, that's what most people do. Some people put that subwoofer somewhere in the room where it sounds the best. And the big issue there is the amount of issues that you get. Because if you, and this is something that we need to talk about, is like room modes, right? And I'm sure I've probably mentioned it somewhere. I want to copy. I want to see if I posted it somewhere without the trouble, because I think I had a picture somewhere over here. Where's the retreat? I had a screenshot. Someone probably liked it on top. Where is it? Yeah, here we go. So as you can see, this is the, ignore the messy room in the background because I was still setting this all up. This is the little 6-inch screen that I had just for debugging purposes if the software crashed. Right now I'm using the Stream Deck Mini. You can see that the subwoofer is right here is incredibly small. Once again, it's just 5 centimeters higher than the iLoud Micros, which are also insane. You would think that these cannot deliver a sound. Man, they can deliver a sound, dude. These things sound insane. And the great part about this setup is that if you live in an apartment, the sub obviously will stay a little bit longer. But these things, especially the mids and highs of this and the sub, they will ring out or they will fade out in a distance between 1 to 3 meters. So if you're 1 to 3 meters away, you will barely hear them, especially the sub, because once again, they are not, obviously they can't go, well, I haven't tried it, but they probably can, but I haven't tried it. These will be much louder to you, or they will feel much louder to you because they're much closer proximity, which means that you have to drive them less, which means that you're essentially creating less room modes because the sound output of these, the sound waves are going to travel less in your room because they're going to fade out a lot earlier because they're quieter, right? And this is the big difference between a regular subwoofer that we all know and love and, for example, the Audio Engineer 6 is because it's right in front of you. You will immediately hear the clean, transparent signal. And then everything else that you hear, and that's barely anything, honestly, with this, is a reflection in your room. And that's how usually most subwoofers work is that they actually deliver a reflection of the subwoofer rather than the direct monitoring subwoofer. If you've ever noticed, a subwoofer will sound a lot better if you're closer to it than if you have it under your desk and you're just feeling it, right? Because at that point, you're getting a reflection. You're not actually getting the direct monitoring of the sub. You're just getting a reflection that's bounced in the room. And that will have a lot of phasing issues. And some notes will be much quieter. Some other notes will be much louder, all that kind of crap. I've went through this whole setup, this whole issue. It sucks. Acoustic treatment sucks. And it sucks not only if you do not own an apartment or own a home, it sucks because it is diminishing returns. Usually people talk about acoustically controlling a room or controlling room modes rather than fixing them because you can never fix them. That is the big issue with acoustic treatment. And this setup will essentially eliminate all of that because you're now more closely directly monitoring all the frequencies that come out of these speakers before you can even hear the reflection in the room. How are you using no monitor? Is it a virtual monitor? Yep. It's free virtual projected screens that I'm using through VR. So I'm using a VR headset. In my case, it's the Pico 4. And the reason why I'm doing that is because the Pico 4 has a per eye resolution of over 4K. So it's just above 4K resolution per eye, which is totally enough, especially if you're used to a 1080p or a 1440p screen. 4K will absolutely work as well, of course, but this thing is sharp enough to completely see everything, which is really, really cool. And this obviously allows you to place them anywhere you would like. And the other thing that I haven't talked about yet is, and you can actually kind of see this as well, is because I can place them anywhere, I don't have to strain my neck anymore because I can essentially place them, let's say, angled more towards the top of my ceiling, and I can actually lay back on my chair and really make use of the chair and actually look up while still working. So it's much better for my neck than if I had to slouch down a little bit, right? Huge difference. This makes a huge difference for ergonomics. And ergonomics, usually money is the thing that will buy ergonomics, right? But in this case, using a VR headset, you don't really even have the initial issue of having to look at a monitor that is way too low compared to where your arms rest. I don't know if you guys have adjustable desks, but I had to get one because I had surgery because of a perineal cyst. Some of you may remember. So I had to actually stand for like roughly 2 to 3 months. Sometimes I could sit, sometimes I had to stand, so I had to get a adjustable desk. And I've noticed that with my monitor, I had the highest height that I could set on the stand for it. I've noticed that that there was no good ratio between my arms resting on my desk comfortably and the monitor being high enough so that I wouldn't like look downwards, right? Like this. You watch anime? Not anymore. I think the last anime that I've watched was like One Punch Man. That's it. But that was like years ago. And headphones, I imagine, work the same with the Pico 4. You still plug them into the PC or headphone amp, right? Yeah. You just use the headphones that you use. There's the cool part about the Pico is that it uses a sort of wristband. So it kind of sits right in between the ears and the top of your head. So most headphones will work with it. The closer to the speakers, the less developed the transients will be also, though. Everything is a trade-off. I would actually say that I didn't really experience that at all. I would say the further away you are from the speakers, the more smeared the transients will actually be. Because you're going to be hearing more of the room reflection with it. And the room reflection is usually delayed, right? So it's almost like you're hearing a bit of post-ringing or like a sort of, what's it called? This is actually what I've noticed with sub, right? I actually initially had the KRK sub. Let me see if I can type this in. Actually, wait, I have a keyboard on the bottom here. I can use the virtual keyboard. Delete, backspace, KRK sub. So what I initially experienced, and I had this KRK sub right here. I think it was this one. That thing is fucking like huge and heavy, by the way. Is that any kick drum would actually sound the same? They would all sound like a similar 808 kick drum, because there was so much post decay of the low end, and obviously this also happens for mids and highs, just not as drastically as for the low end. So the closer you actually are to the subwoofer or the mids and high frequency speakers, the more transparent of a transient response you should actually be getting, considering that you will be hearing less of the decay of the room, right? For this, you need powerful GPU? Nope, you do not. The cool part is that you can use HDMI dummies. So let me actually write this down as well for you. I can write this with this HDMI dummy. So what I do, for example, is I use these HDMI dummies. I just plug them into the display port. And what that allows me to do is it allows me for Windows to create the screen. And then for the software, in this case, Immersed, or in this case, obviously, Virtual Desktop, to just stream the screen to the VR headset. So the software is only streaming stuff. It's not creating any screens or anything like that. As you can see, this is Immersed right here. So yeah, that's the setup, essentially. I've got a typing keyboard. I've got a piano keyboard here with MPE support per note, pitch bend, and all that kind of stuff. I've got an amazing sound with the iLoud micros here and the Audio Engine S6. And I'm guessing that subwoofer is probably going to get scooped up quite fast, considering that it is one of the only ones at that price point that can produce down to 33 hertz, which is absolutely ridiculous. But one more thing that I wanted to talk about is another thing that you might have to do. As you can see, this device right here, and I've been talking about this for a while, is you guys may remember the mini DSP that I've been talking about in previous streams. That's the mini DSP. I was initially talking about this guy right here, which is a hardware digital signal processor that allows you to EQ speakers. By basically connecting it via USB to your PC, then you use some kind of software, and then the actual processing happens on the device, and you're good to go. Now, this thing is quite expensive. This is like 225 USD. If you try to get this in Europe, you will also have to import it, so that's even more. And then there's a markup because it's euro as well, so that'll be even more. So you'll probably be paying like 300 to 350 bucks for this thing in Europe. But I've actually found a cheaper alternative that actually works even better, which is called the T-Rex. T-Rex DSP, there it is. Let's go with the UK one. So this thing is roughly 120 euros. Probably will be roughly, what will that be less? I think 140 bucks US dollars. This thing actually has even more inputs as well. But more importantly, this does the exact same thing that the mini DSP does, and it does it cheaper. And it has this program right here that you can see that you have the input volumes and stuff. And more importantly, you have this section where you can have input A and B. So for example, I'm currently just outputting a stereo cable to two mono cable, big ones, 6.3 millimeter cables into this thing. And then I'm actually using the right side of the Windows output to also send to my subwoofer. And then what you can do in here with the EQs, that's the compressor, the gate. With the EQs is you can do high pass filtering or low pass filtering right here. I think I can actually show this program as well. It's right here. It's just not connected right now, but it's only GUI. I'm gonna hit demo. But oh yeah, it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't have it loaded up. But as you can see, you can enable, for example, low pass filters on one, or in this case, yeah, like a low pass filter. I can move this down to, for example, 65 hertz if that's where I want to cross over to the sub, and then I can do the opposite. I can do a high pass filter for the left and right speaker of my my iLouds, and then you have a nice smooth crossover between the two. And another thing that you can do, and this is something that I did, is, and if I can find, let me pull this over here. 1 second, I'll pull up the picture here. What I've done here is, this is the picture. I'm going to bring this over again. Is, oh, where's my mouse? There we go. Is what I've done here. I'm going to open this in browser. There we go. This back. Be really sneaky with the setup here. Okay, there we go. Make this big again. Bam. There we go. What I've done here is, as you can see, I have the, this is the sub, right? So this is probably something that you want to maybe check out for. You might want to grab operator, Ableton's operator, and just play the different notes and see if they're all equal loudness from your regular listening position. What I've done is I've done a low cut here, actually low pass, to cross over with the iLouds at 70 hertz. And then what I've done is I've boosted the C and C sharp note roughly by 6 decibels. I've obviously done gain compensation -8 decibels because these are, once again, minimum filters, so you might want to, look out for overshooting. And then you can see that the I actually ended up putting this down -6 decibels, this other peak EQ right here, because the D note in my case was a bit louder than all the other notes. So now, if I play all of the individual notes on that lowest octave for sub, they're all equal volume. And that's kind of what you want. Maybe the C and the C sharp notes should be a little bit quieter, which they are in my case, because those are notes that you don't really want to use. Generally speaking, most systems will not be able to reproduce those notes anyways, but I wanted to be able to hear them because obviously that's part of a good setup. But yeah, you might have to do some tinkering around with EQs because not all audio gear is perfect, of course. But everything above that is obviously pristine. So yeah, that's basically my setup. So you have you have the T-Rex right here doing the crossover for the speakers. You have the main subwoofer over here. And this system, once again, it looks like it doesn't produce great sound, but it does. Because once again, it just very accurately reproduces all of the frequency spectrum. So it just sounds really good. And then obviously I have tons of space for the virtual monitors. Right, and that would be in any room. So if I move and I have a bigger room, it won't change. If I have a smaller room, it won't change because all I need is the desk space. That's it. And that's what I've been using now. And when we talk about price, right, that's kind of important as well. Like, how much will this cost you? It will not cost you a leg. So the audio engine is 6, as you can see. Where is it? Right here. If you are in the US, it'll cost you $300, which is really decent for a subwoofer. This is actually quite cheap. A lot of other subwoofers are much more expensive than this. And then the iLoud micros, which I might have somewhere here as well. I can type it in, actually. iLoud micro monitors right there. They will set you back roughly the same amount, roughly $300, maybe a little bit more. This is mainly because these actually try to really reproduce lower frequencies as well. But the high end and mid frequencies are so good. Like, these sound really, really solid. You can see by the rating as well. These are kind of nuts. And they actually use partial DSP, so they actually also kind of use digital signal processing inside of the speakers to make them sound as good. But yeah, these are solid. So that'll be another $300. So that's like $600 to $700 total for just the speaker setup. Then the T-Rex maybe will be at $700 to $800. But that's basically it then, right? You will have a pristine sound because all the frequencies are being reproduced properly. And this thing can be loud. And even when it's loud, you're probably not going to be annoying your neighbors because it fades out quite fast, since they're so close proximity for you. It's the next best thing to headphones, basically. So if you want to take your production to the next level and want to buy budget monitors, you'd recommend that setup, or is there any upside or downside to getting popular monitors like the KRKs? So the general gist is, and most people that have built studios that have gotten or jumped to bigger monitors, for example, I actually started off with the HS7 and then got the KRK subwoofer, is the bigger the speakers are and the subwoofer is, the harder it is to time. The bigger those pieces are, the harder they are to acoustically treat in a room. And that's just a given. Because the bigger they are, the more power they need, the more distance they need towards you, and the more boomy they will sound. And that's just the reality. Obviously, if you have a greatly treated acoustic room, they can sound great. Now, that would also mean that you probably don't have any neighbors, right? Because if you use the HS7s and a subwoofer, then you can probably not crank them that much anyways. And once again, because they have to have so much distance between you and the speaker, you will get more and more of that room mode sound rather than the original sound that comes out of the speakers. Which audio interface are you using to connect monitors? None. I use some clever cables, actually. So let me explain how this works, right? Where was the T-Rex? I think we can probably go back here. Maybe able to go back here. Was it this one? It might have been this one. Nope, that's not it. This is probably not it either. Where is it? I'm going to have to type it back in again. There we go. Okay, so if we take a look at the... I'll be able to do this again. Let me quickly explain the cable management here. So as you can see, these are 6.3 millimeter inputs, so cable inputs. And what I do is actually use FlexSI on Windows, so I don't use my audio interface, which I could, though. And then the iLoud micro monitors right here, they have an input for a 3.5 millimeter audio cable, left, right, so stereo audio cable. So what you can do is you can essentially just either use the audio interface, or you can use, I'm going to duplicate this page, or you could use your audio interface. And then what you can do is you can do a 3.5, if we can type this in, 6.5, 6.3. No, that did not copy. Why did that not copy? That still didn't copy. 6.3 millimeters to, I'll type it in, to 3.5. That'll be difficult too. I might have to type it in the same way. 1 second. Where's the M? I need the M. Where are they at? Was it 6.3? That's 6.3. And then this one is, wait, what does it say? I guess mini jack. Let's call it mini. To mini. I'm really bad at typing in these cables. 1 second, I'll quickly switch this so you guys can actually see the products. So I'll switch to, there we go. I'll quickly switch this to that screen so I can quickly just grab my my orders. Here we go. Got it. Sweet. So this is how it works, right? So Windows or Mac, you can just plug this straight in with this cable, this right here. So this goes into your Mac or PC. These two, left and right, go into your T-Rex channel 1 and channel 2. Then with the T-Rex software, what you can do is you can go to the matrix, and if you have a subwoofer, you can send the left or right channel into the output number 3. So the T-Rex has 3 inputs and 3 outputs. Right over there, channel in, and then that's the channel out. So you can use the right or left channel as your sub frequencies. And so this goes from the computer or Mac into the T-Rex. And then, as you can imagine, you can use the same cable again in the output of the T-Rex, and then use the small stereo mini cable there into the iLoads right here. So that you've got that first section covered. And then, funnily enough, the audio engine is 6, and this is the great part about them being actually sort of hi-fi, right? They're not meant to be used in a stereo, but the quality is so good that you can. Has a RCA, but also has a mini cable input as well. So what I did there is to just use the this cable. So this plugs into the back, and then this plugs into the subwoofer, and you're done. That's it. That's all you have to do. What is the most interesting AI that you have found for music so far? Definitely the synthesizer V. That's the best one so far. The T-Rex DSP EQ is for monitors. Yes, but you can also use them for headphones if you wanted to. But I would primarily use it for monitors. But actually, you can do both, funny enough. You could use them for headphones and for monitors. But then you wouldn't be able to also use the sub. But yeah. What is the mode? Okay, very insightful. Thank you on that dumb question. Does the setup you have now represent the low, mid, and high signal? Well, yes. That is the thing. The audio engine is 6, the speaker that you can see right there. The speakers are perfect for anything, usually from 50 hertz down up to 20 kilohertz, of course. But I actually have them cross-filtered at at 70 hertz, because the audio engine is 6, goes up to 130. But obviously I low pass it at 70, but it goes down to 33 hertz, which is the lowest C note that you can possibly hear anyways. So that's the very first C0 note that you can totally hear on headphones, but you can only feel IRL. And so this thing reproduces all frequencies super well, which is absolutely nuts. I've played like literally every single VR song has just completely knocked me out of my chair with this setup because it sounds so good. And Marauder stuff sounds insane. And then it's like you just go into the next room and you don't even hear the sub anymore, because it's, once again, it's such a small setup that you get the whole blast, but people around you won't, which is great. So this is basically the setup, as you can see, with the T-Rex splitter there, the iLouds right here, my typing keyboard, which is just a Razer keyboard, the Lumi Studio key. This thing was pretty expensive too, but I think I got it for like $240, which is really good for an MPE keyboard because it has per note pitch bend, which is kind of nuts. It can do a whole bunch of other things. And it's great for like bass design or writing melodies and all that kind of stuff. Normal mouse, of course. And then to stay wireless, while I use the Pico 4, I use these batteries right here, which I will essentially just sequentially recharge while I use one of them. So I never actually have to use a cable. I can always be wireless. If you have a 5G Wi-Fi at home, you can just go wireless, and the latency is pretty much not noticeable. And then on top of that, I just got this. Where is it? I actually posted right. This Stream Deck Mini. So I only need this. I have Immersed over here, which is my VR program. I have Virtual Desktop over here, and then I have a volume changer over here, because obviously I can see that stuff in Immersed. And then this one's actually a mute button if like I have to mute stuff. And this allows me to troubleshoot if Immersed or Virtual Desktop, which are the two programs that can do virtual monitors. If any of these tend to, like, if they ever crash or stop working, I can just click on that and it'll restart the program, which is great. So I can completely go wireless, and I still have this small, oops, that was, I clicked that randomly. I still have this little 6-inch screen that if I ever need to like go into the BIOS or something's messed up, then obviously I can just plug that into the computer and then do some troubleshooting, but I actually don't need it. This is the complete setup. It's nuts. And the great part again is you can use this anywhere. This will work in your room. This will work in a hotel room. This will work, well, okay, you probably wouldn't bring this stuff into a hotel room, but yeah, this will work in pretty much any room. It's an incredibly clean setup, and like technically speaking, it gives you incredible sound. You mentioned those like wireless HDMI things you're using. Could you talk a bit more about those if you haven't already? The wireless HDMI things, right? So those are. I think I had them here. Nope. Let me type them in again. Right here. It's the HDMI dummies. So what these do is they just plug into your graphics card or your HDMI output. If you have a MacBook, you can just get a dongle and with an HDMI reader, and you can have multiple screens. Now, the program Immersed can actually do their own screens, but I would not trust them to run that well. That's why it's better to just have them in hardware. These will just plug into your graphics card or your MacBook as HDMI, and they will just fake a screen. So the screen obviously doesn't exist because it's just this thing, but you can access it via virtual reality, which is the great part. And that's what I'm doing right now as well. I can access all of my free screens, and there can be any. Funnily enough, if you are on if you are on Windows, you can use the NVIDIA control panel if you're using an NVIDIA card, and you can give them any resolution. They can be ultra wide, they can be super thin, they can be any size, and they can also be any hertz. So if we in the future will have, for example, let's say we'll have I'm really close to the cam right there. If we will have a 120 hertz VR headset that can do these amounts of monitors, then you can take advantage of that. Because at least virtual desktop right now actually runs at 90 hertz, which is really nuts. Let me quickly check if the battery is still full. Nope, it's totally empty. So we'll switch it out. And as you can hear, you will hear like a snapping. Bam. That is my other battery that just connected, and now I'm back to full battery for probably another 1.5 hours, and then I'll just switch it out every 1.5 hours. Literally takes me like 3 seconds. But yeah, I have one more question. Why are you not placing your monitors like phantom center? What do you mean with phantom center? What is phantom center? Also, another thing is, obviously I've been using the Pico 4, so I can show you what that looks like. That's Pico 4 right here. This is all in German probably, so let me just switch the language here. Let's do UK English. This is the Pico 4. This is what I'm using. Ignore the enterprise one. I think it's literally the same specs. It's just meant for businesses, and that's why it's expensive. Lol. The Pico 4. Oh, I think I'll have to probably click on it. Learn more. Yeah. Where's it? So this will probably say somewhere over here. I need the information. 90 hertz, so it can do up to 90 hertz right here, as you can see. And it has a resolution of 2K, wait, this is a resolution in excess of 2K per eye plus the PPI. So it's roughly 4K resolution per eye. If we go lower, you can see, where is it? Or it was 4K in total? I'm not sure. But it is definitely high enough. 4K plus resolution, 90 hertz flash, LCD, not LSD. And I'm wondering if they posted the weight of this thing as well somewhere, because it does not weigh a lot. I wonder, because I used to have an Oculus Rift S, and that thing was heavy. Oh yeah, and this is the see-through right here. So this is where like all of the AR stuff comes into place, where you can project, 3D things, and of course also monitors in 3D space. And that's the whole point, is that this essentially costs roughly like $300 to $400, and it'll be able to create up to 5 monitors in any position that you want it to be, which is insane. It's crazy. The other alternative to this would be AR glasses. Some of you may have heard of AR glasses. Quite initially, it was the Google glasses that were quite known in the mainstream market, but they never really got into popularity because I think they weren't that great. But now we actually have AR glasses, and I want to show you the one that I'm currently looking at. So there's, for example, the Nreal Air. These guys are mostly just available in the US, unfortunately. Well, for the people that are in the USA, obviously it'll be great. These are OLED glasses over here, as you can see behind these main glasses. They are OLED glasses that have a 1080p resolution at 60 hertz, and they will project a screen onto those OLED glasses. And the screen size will feel roughly like a TV-sized monitor. Now, the FOV is very, very low, so you won't, at some points, won't even see the whole screen. But once again, you can have multiple screens, and you can have them placed in 3D space, like with a VR headset. And obviously, this is just glasses, so you can even wear them in public and probably not look that weird. And the other great thing about AR glasses is because they have this other section here. They actually see through. So the glasses themselves are OLED, the displays are OLED, but they're semi-transparent, which means that if you obviously want to be able to type, you can with these. What it essentially does is it takes all the black information of the screen, and if you have a white background, then the black information will obviously be transparent. But they obviously, as you can see here as well, you have a cover, so you have a black cover, so you can have complete blacks if you desire to do so and you want to have the full range of the OLED. Now, once again, these are mostly just in the US. They're quite expensive in the EU. But another competitor to that I'm currently eyeing is the Rokit Max. This is sort of the competitor to the Unreal Air glasses. Yeah, the Google glasses was awful. Hello, Dr. Ozzy. Hello. Hope you're doing well. I'm currently going over my new setup that is fully VR currently, and it's been a lot of fun to talk about it. Hello, what is happening? Did Nasco turn faceplant into VR glasses? No, I haven't. But I do not own. Well, I do own, but I do not use a physical monitor anymore. This is my current setup. If I have the picture right here. Ignore the messy background, but you can see I just have 2 iLoud micros, which take care of everything low mids to highs, sound amazing. And then I have found this affordable, very affordable 6-inch subwoofer that can go down to 33 hertz. And that last C and C sharp note, you can actually boost a little bit with hardware DSP. And it's just like 5 centimeters bigger than the iLoud micros, which are like 15 centimeters high. So if you had an actual monitor, you could also just use an actual monitor. But I went with virtual monitors because I can have as many of them as I want. And I can have them placed wherever I want them, which is great. So that's what we've been talking about right now. Hello, Wowland. But yeah, regarding AR glasses, the other ones that I'm looking at is the Rokit Max, which are not out yet. They were supposed to be shipping this month. And the great part about these, they look silly. To be honest, they look quite silly, but I think there's also a black version of this. The great part about these is, once again, they're still at 1080p, which might not be enough for some people. Probably won't be enough for me. I'll have to try it maybe. I don't know if I can even send it back if I get something like this. The great part about them is they have a 120 hertz refresh rate. That is nuts. Even the Pico only does 90 hertz max, and it's not even using that in immersed. This will make it feel incredibly smooth. It's incredibly bright as well. So if you have the cover on, it'll be incredible HDR quality. And I don't know if this supports multiple screens. If they don't, then obviously this isn't a product that is usable for productivity or creative work. But if they do include it, and obviously I'm going to wait for reviews, then this might be a good alternative to a VR headset if people don't dislike VR headsets. But the Pico 4 so far has been really solid. But yeah, you might as well want to wait for the Quest 3 to come out. That is coming out this year. And that thing is probably going to have a bunch of updates as well and upgrades. But yeah, that's basically the setup. I can just work as I usually work. Nothing about that has changed. Everything's the same, except now I'm actually using 3 monitors. Previously, I was using just 1, so my productivity wasn't as great. The other thing is that and I can actually show you this as files here too. I'm going to pull this over here. Let me bring up these videos. I think this will be one. There we go. So this is a video that I recorded. That was when I was initially messing around with the Pico 4. You can see I have a cutout at the bottom here in 3D space. So the background is just like some space. You can actually, and this is the crazy part, you can actually use any 360 photos with immersed. So you can have a picture of a stretched picture of VR in the background if you want. And you can see them around you 360 degrees, and you can be inspired all the time to make great yoings and bases. Or you could have a 3D environment that you really like from a movie. You could have a 3D environment, a real 3D environment. Obviously, you could have something like space. Anything that inspires you, which is obviously very important, much more interesting to look at than just a basic plain apartment room, right? But then you can still cut out certain bits of the camera pass through for usability. So you can see, I can still see my keyboard on the bottom. I can see the Roly keyboard there as well. You can have up to like, I think up to 5 portals, so different shapes as well. And you can see I have in the middle here, and obviously the curving of this is like trying to slam or stretch down a 360 or 180 degree video in a 4x4 format, which is kind of strange. But these aren't as curved as they look over here in VR. But you can see that I have Discord over here as a portrait format, so I can read more of the chat. Over there, I have my keyboard on the bottom. I can type easily. And then on the right, I have a YouTube video playing of Kilohertz new granular synthesizer. I think that came out just that time. And then in the middle, I have Ableton. And around me is obviously space. And then I can also move these around, as you can see, as a group. Right there, I can get it closer, I can make it bigger, whatever I want to do. And I think that is absolutely nuts, because you cannot just physically move your monitors IRL. You can't just do that, right? Especially you can't just curve them. I also have this pretty funny video of me pretending to be a, that's not it. Let me find it. Me pretending to be the current generation. Oh yeah, this is the other software which is called Virtual Desktop. So here I can do a bunch of other stuff. This is just one monitor, but I can see everything there. And then I think it's this one. I think it has to be, yeah. So this is just me pretending to be the current generation using TikTok. So you've got Subway Surfers in the middle. You've got some ASMR stuff on the left and some ASMR stuff on the right. So you can have a complete sensory overload if you want in VR, which is great. Lovely stuff. Or you can have this thing all around you as well. You can obviously curve it. I think I'm going to curve it as well in this video. You can move around the individual screens if you wanted to. Yeah, this thing's nuts. It's ridiculous. And you can have all of this functionality for like, you just need a VR headset, and those are not as expensive anymore as they used to be. Do you get any headaches after using VR? Nope, I don't. Luckily not, because I'm just in a seating position and I'm not really moving much, right? So not really. As a member of the current generation, that looks great. Just need some Minecraft parkour in there as well. That's true, yeah, I would need some Minecraft parkour. But yeah, if I ever need to, like, if I'm using this program that I don't have pass-through with, so I can't see the background camera, I can just double tap the Pico and then I can, for example, have a drink. Because I've been talking so much, Jesus Christ. Let me actually drink some more. There we go. Anyways, that's about that. That was a whole bunch of talking. I might also go over the setup on the Patreon and kind of explain why the setup makes sense and why it will save you a lot of money and headaches, especially when it comes to acoustic treatment. That's one of the biggest things that I wanted to tackle with this setup. Because I don't think you can actually get anything more. You can't get anything more transparent than this unless you start getting bigger gear and like getting acoustic treatment. The reason why this soft and this, like, even if these things were to cost 600, like let's say the ILOs costed 600 and the subwoofer costed 600, it would still be worth buying this. Simply because you save the cost of doing all the acoustic treatment, and that can go into the thousands if you're not careful. And the issue there is as well, if you get big subwoofers or big speakers, they're never going to sound that great because the room has to work first for them, because there's obviously a bit harder to time. So the diminishing returns there are even bigger. And many people will usually tell you to get like HS7s or KRKs because anything more expensive than that will only work in actual good studios. So yeah. That's about that. That was a big rabbit hole that we just went into. And I'd say that we get back to music. Because we have been talking about all of this stuff a whole bunch now, and my voice is actually a little bit tired of that. So let me switch the stuff there a little bit. You joined the wrong account. I was like, How visible are the screens in VR compared to real-life monitors? Can you see everything on the virtual screen? Yeah, I can totally see everything clearly. Absolutely. I can read everything, and I was initially also a little bit worried. But funny enough, the Pico 4 actually has higher res screens than the Oculus Quest 2 or the Oculus Quest Pro or the Meta Quest Pro or whatever it's called at the moment. And the pass-through is better too. That's the two main things that I was kind of caring about. Back to back. I see. So you just switched channels. Great. Since it's been a while, I think I haven't talked about the new stuff that I've released, including Sample Pack Volume 14 and the new... I think I've talked about Spectral Scaler. Have I talked about Spectral Scaler at the last live stream? I don't remember. You guys have to tell me. I think I did, right? Did I talk about Spectral Scaler? I don't think I have. Did I talk about Spectral Scaler on the YouTube? Because I think I did on the Patreon, but I'm not sure if I did on the YouTube. About the Spectral Scaler now. Okay. Okay, cool. So you guys will like this. It's probably yes, because I'm not a Patreon anymore, but I've heard of it. Oh, you've heard of it? Okay. Maybe you've heard of it on Twitter. But let me talk about it a little bit. So I'm going to bring in just a plain old white noise, or pink noise in this case. I'm going to bring in a pink noise stereo. You guys can hear that, right? We should be able to hear that. Yeah? You guys can hear that? Sweet. So what Spectral Scaler does is what Encolor did, but it lets you actually choose the notes, which is huge. So if you remember Encolor, which I'll pull up over here, Encolor essentially just let you choose between major and minor scales. So if I load it up here, so if I open it up, just let you decide between minor and major scales, which covers most of the songs anyways. But sometimes you want to, have maybe a jazzy scale, or you want to use a very specific scale, or you want to use something like Phrygian dominant or a gypsy scale. Then of course you want to choose the notes so you can actually use that scale. And with Encolor, that just wasn't possible, and it wasn't really feasible for the UI as well. But I was able to replicate Encolor using Ableton. And in this case, if I open this up, you can see it's using a bunch, and I mean a bunch of, wait, where is it? Yeah, it's in T-Split. Engine. It's using a whole bunch of EQ8s, like a bunch of them. And all of the individual EQ8s are basically tackling one specific frequency. And the idea of the Spectral Scaler is that, as the name suggests, it is just a spectral scaling tool rather than something like pitch map or retune, where it will repitch certain notes. This will just take out notes. And so it's kind of a reverse idea where we're taking out certain notes that may not belong to a key. So the ones that are left are the ones that are in key, right? You're not doing any Blender streams for Patreon, any upcoming Blender videos on Patreon? Yes, but I will have to do a poll because there's a million tasks, or like a million topics, and I'm sure you probably have some topics you're interested in, so I'm going to have to do a poll and have the people decide for what they want to see. Anyways, so if you play Spectral Scaler, you can see that there's basically no difference right now, because we're not enabling or disabling any notes. Now, one other feature that Spectral Scaler has over Encolor, of course, is the different scales that you can play. You have a scale preset manager over here, so you can pick different scales. But the other thing that I was able to implement is the ceiling. So the way the ceiling works is kind of like the way the ceiling works in PitchMap, where if I load this up, you can see that I can move the top slider over here and the bottom slider, and I can limit the effect to a certain frequency area. And you can do the same thing within Spectral Scaler. Now, this thing starts at roughly 200 or I think 300 Hertz. So anything below that will not really be affected because it's causing too much phase rotation in that area to be usable. But it can go up to 3.2 kilohertz, which is far enough, really. Like, this will be really, really high notes. So it can process up to there, but obviously the more processing that you do, the more sort of obvious the effect will become. So for you to be able to dial that in, not only do you have the amount knob, but you also have the ceiling dial here, so you can change the amounts. If I remember correctly, it has that transient splitting stuff, right? Yes, that's another thing that this rack does, is transient splitting. So it splits certain transients. I can show you that as well in a minute, how that works. But for now, I'm just going to play this pink noise, and then I'm going to go through some of these scales. So here, for example, you have the major scales and the relative minor. Then you have, and this is really cool, the Phrygian dominant scales, which I included. And sometimes what I've done here is, as you can see, with every scale, there's usually one specific note that you will want to take out, just to make sure that there's not too many dissonant notes. And you can see that one usually represented by this one dial here that says 0, but isn't all the way turned off. So this would technically still be part of B minor, but sometimes too many of those notes in the scale, which obviously for minor and major are 7 out of the 12, will sound too dissonant if there's too many of them. And then what you can do is, obviously, you can take the ceiling, and you can dial in the effect. AKA the evil scale. Yes. Is it parallel? Well, not really. Obviously, it will be affecting your frequency spectrum. So if you take a look at it, you can see it there. It will mostly affect the area that is important. So for example, let's bring in, let's say, a Reese. So I'm going to go patterns. No, let's go Reese's. I'm going to do this E. And then I'm going to go with an E minor here. So you can see, I'm basically just affecting this whole frequency spectrum, frequency area right there. And Spectral Scaler also does some very smart boosting of the frequency region that it is taking out of stuff as well. So you're going to have a very decent sort of dry wet experience here with the amount. And once again, we can use the ceiling to lower the frequency. So if I take a different E here, maybe. I can include the C note that I initially took out. But you can hear now there's a lot of dissonance, so. We can also try, for example, let's try some glitches. And then obviously we can, with these ones, we can at least pick any scale. And what you will also be able to tell with, I'm gonna sit. Let me check. What you can also tell with within Spectral Scaler is that it does less, like it's less extreme as in color. It does far less phase rotation, which is a good thing. Now, if you want to double the effect, which in some cases you may want to, but honestly, I would probably not recommend it, is you can double it. But as you can tell, it doesn't really help the sound. It just makes it sound more vocody. And yeah, that's basically Spectral Scaler. So now you can choose the scale. And what's really cool is if you combine that, for example, with Faceplant and the new granular synthesis, which I can play right here. So for example, if I load in, let's say granular, and I do some random phrases acoustic, let's do random piano chaos. And let's do some random position. Let's do some pentatonic. So this will be incredibly random, as you can hear. I might be very high. 1 second. Oh yeah, really close to the... Oh, you can see that right there. I'm really close to the... 1 second. I'm gonna have to sit back like that. Okay. Sweet. Both of them right here. Okay. Where's my mouse at? Hello? Where's my mouse? Oh, oops. There we go. So this is kind of a mess right now, right? As you can hear. It's really a mess. I'm gonna add a C on the bottom here. So I'm gonna add a low pass filter and some unison. Create a little Reese. Now this would be C Thurgian dominant, but as you can hear, it doesn't sound like the C Thurgian dominant. Now let's bring in a Spectral Scaler, and let's bring in this C Thurgian dominant scale. Turn the amount all the way up, maybe the ceiling a little bit higher. I'm also going to bring in a scale that will be Thurgian dominant. So you have a little bit of a context here for when I play different notes. Now, these play a little bit fast, so I'm going to play them a little lower. I'm also going to do a little bit of a high-pass filter for the pianos, because we don't need all that low end. I'm going to do some reverb on that. I'm going to send the reeds to the second line. Change the timing, maybe some of the level panning and reviews. Now I'm gonna play it again without a Spectral Scaler. With it. I can also, for example, enable the G note. But that was the one that I found to sound a little bit too dissonant with everything else. But in this case, it sounds nice. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And then, for example, we can obviously change the oscillator or the sample. Let's try again with that. Let's turn on warm start so we start from somewhere. Again, without it. And that is a very difficult thing to work with there. We can also go with phrases synthetic. Let's turn it back on. Let's disable the one note again. Let's use minor. And once again, this will obviously also work with anything that you want to sound nice and melodic. So currently this is all very dark, but you can just use, let's say, a C major scale and then have that work that way. So crazy. We also do add effects and some groups of notes in the scale, like a timeless free with a granular dynamics. Yeah, it's really nuts. And the age-old thing that it fixes, I find, is if you have, like, if you try to create it, let's say a chord, right? Let's say we do a major chord, and let's play it. Let's make it consistent. Just turn all of these off here. We're there, right? We play like different notes in the C major scale. It won't quite work because the notes aren't being adjusted for within the granular oscillator. This is just pitching them on any major scale that you're currently pressing. But with Spectral Scaler, we can get rid of the notes that shouldn't be part of those other notes. And obviously with major scales, you can do the same thing with encoder. So I could just load up encoder in here and do the same thing, C major. So you can hear if I turn it off, there's a bunch of notes in there that aren't actually part of the scale. And it just fixes that. And now you have the same thing for Ableton, which is really dope. So you could pair it with Ableton's granulator if you wanted to, for example. Yeah, it's awesome. Let's for example make it more of a, like a sampled sound. So let's turn off the chord. Or let's make it a synced. And let's map it to... Once again, without a spectral scaler. You can obviously also load in things like glitches and bases. Let's maybe make the rees kind of work a similar rhythm. Now you can tell that these are both a little bit offset from each other. That might be a little bit better. Let's do a full-on. And we can, for example, pair a bass like that with maybe a completely different sample that's from the factory. So grinds, let's do modular prism break. How dope is that? Yeah, it's endless, the possibilities here with granular and either retune or pitch map, or in this case in color, or well, spectral scaler. It's a color base right there. So cool. Even less reason to use serum anymore. Yeah, exactly. Granular oscillator is nuts. I mean, once again, if you want to go for something darker, let's say you want to go for an E Phrygian dominant, so that would be a C, D, E. We can grab an bass design in here. So we'll do and bass design PP. We'll do some kind of rhythm. Let's do a very, very simple rhythm. So we'll just do a super simple 1 on the 4 on the floor bass. And we'll do just a granular. We'll map the root, and then we'll pick any random glitch. And then we'll use another LFO, put it to sync, make it a little bit slower, and scan through the waveform in whatever cool way that we want to. Like that. And just scan through the waveform. And we're currently an E Phrygian, so without it, let's turn this on. And now we can use the ceiling to lower the effect. So we don't. It's not as aggressive as it needs to be. We can also enable the C note, and we can try disabling a different one. D, D sharp, E, F maybe. I think that A may not sound that great in here. We can obviously go with some maybe spectral glitches here as well. We might also want to pull up a Phrygian dominant scale and then make that an E. And as you can see, you can get a bunch of cool shit out of this. You can also maybe add a FM layer onto this just to kind of give us a little bit more juice in the tonality here. So we'll do a phase FM. Let's maybe map the amount here. Let's put it before the granular and then add a low pass filter so we're not using all that high end. We might want to adjust the harmonic here a little bit because FM, generally speaking, is... Oh, I'm very close to that stuff again. Move back a little bit. I'm gonna go, mate. I'll watch the stream tomorrow. Sweet. I'll see you around. What are some things you're looking for? What are some things you're looking for that tell you if you should use a line phase or not with granular oscillator? Oh yeah, I actually forgot to turn that on. You're right. It just sounded kind of fine to me in this case. A line phases you actually want to have on all the time because you can then turn out the grains and turn on the grain envelope. I totally forgot to turn that on. You just reminded me. Thank you very much. Yeah, it sounds much better now. And then we want to adjust the FM a little bit here. And as you can hear, that all sounds really cool. Maybe let's adjust the volume here of the oscillator. Ooh. Yeah, that's cool. I love that. Let's make that a little bit faster. Let's make it just one bass sound. So we'll just do the same speed. We can actually, this changing the curve here really changes the way the grains are being. Once again, I'll turn up the ceiling a little bit. I'll turn the effect off. I'll turn spectral scaler off, and then you can hear. Sounds pretty nice already without it, but then with it, even nicer. There's so many possibilities here with these. And what I personally love doing is then turning on global unison and on hard mode and add some nice sort of unison movement. Now, regarding making things sound angry, there is another thing that I've released, which is, I'll put this as a snappy break right after this one. Actually, we should probably have it after the spectral scaler here as well. The other one that I've released is a rack that actually does self-pitch modulation. So I've called it N-Surf FM. And what this thing does is it does frequency self-pitch modulation, the self-frequency modulation for the mids and highs. And then for the low end, it's using self-phase modulation because that's just a little bit cleaner for the low end. And the great part about this is that usually when you do self-pitch modulation, and you can do this in Serum as well, by the way, if we, for example, oops, that was the wrong button, insert MIDI track. If I bring in a Serum, and let's say I load in any sound, right now I don't really have any, but I can probably bring them in like this. If I load this in and I play a note, I could go to the matrix, I could go to source, I can pick the noise oscillator, and then I can go to sonation, noise oscillator, pitch. And when this thing pitch modulates itself, it gets some really cool results. We have to put this in bipolar though. You get this really dirty sub, and then on top of that, this really crazy sort of pitch modulation on the top. And this works especially well on bass sounds. For example, if we pick a one shot, it can sound really angry, and then we can let's key track it. And the cool part is that I've managed to do this in real time rather than being restricted to samplers, because that's basically what they most are restricted to. There's no other way to usually than Surf FM. I've tried this, for example, with just using the phase distortion module, which is technically kind of FM. You can sidechain it with itself, which it actually already does if the sidechain here is off. But as you can hear, this turns out to be more like distortion than actual self-pitch modulation like we're used to by doing it inside of samplers. You can do the same thing, by the way, in Faceplant. It's very, very simple. You just drag in a sampler, then you drag in the bass sound. And then you do FM, not phase modulation, you do semi-cent modulation on the same sample. Now, if you combine this effect with, for example, let's say, N-Power, and then let's say we also take a convolver in here, and then let's use a noise phaser. You get some really angry stuff. From that, you can totally distort this thing. You can also use it, for example, on the little tear out one shots that I have over here. The little bit lower over here, tear out one shots. So if I take So it's a really cool effect, and it adds a lot of really, really cool sort of low-end harmonics. Now I've done this, and I've managed to do this as a real-time effect. So if we load up the same serum patch here, or we load up the same sample, I don't remember which one it was, so I'm going to go back to glitches. When we load up this one, what I can do is I can just load up Snap Heap, and I can load up and Self-FM. And first of all, it's not going to do anything. You have 3 dials over here. You have X over, you have high FM, and then you have low FM. And also, I'm quickly going to check if the battery is still fine. That's great. My helmet might just lag out here for a second. Bear with me. We should be fine. Hello, Kablam. Hope you're doing well. But as you can see, we can now push both low frequency FM and high frequency FM. So this is roughly, I think the crossover is like at 120 hertz. I don't quite remember. Let me check. I think it should be at a roughly 120 hertz. And what it does, it does frequency self-modulation for the top end, and then it does phase mod for the bottom. So this is what the top end sounds like. And then this is what the low FM sounds like. So let's bring in a different sample here, for example. Let's bring in... Let's bring in a bass pattern, for example. I'm going to turn these off again. And then for the low end. And you have obviously a crossover here. So if you have the crossover all the way down, it's, the high frequency, the frequency self-modulation will take over for the low end as well. Which might change the pitch of it though. And then if you push it all the way up, I think it goes up to like 300 hertz, then phase mod is going to take over most of the low end. And you can use this to make things sound angrier. So we can go back to the... We can go back to this bass, and we can just use Self-FM on this. Wow. And this will mostly just work if you have a sine wave in your bass sound, or any sound, but you can obviously use this in anything. But sine waves are really important because those give a lot of that sort of darker pitch modulation. Now, to generate your thought process, but what are some songwriting techniques you personally find useful? Songwriting techniques. Try to, one of the things that I usually do is to resample what I have as a drop, for example. and I cut it up into different colors and see what sort of what the structure of my drop is. And if it's too chaotic and if there's too much going on, I'll try to cut back stuff. With most people that produce dubstep, they probably have ADHD. So you'll probably overcompensate and you'll do too much in the beginning, which is a good thing because that means that you have a lot of content to work with, but then you want to dial that back down and just focus on the stuff that sounds the best and that you want to really push forward, I'd say. So you can always do too much and then you have to dial it back, essentially. And this self-FM can also sound pretty funny on some certain sounds. For example, if you use this on a Reese, it can get you some really interesting pitch movements. For example, on this one. If I load up a self-FM, I almost want to say in self-defense, which that's so stupid. Anyways, yeah, you get some really interesting like pitch modulations on top end. You can obviously load up any samples into it. I would usually combine this probably with some distortion, make it sound really angry with some dispersion as well. And you can make any of these sound really angry. But yeah, that's for the racks. And those are actually from last month. So they're actually not from the current month. They're from the last month because all the current stuff for the current month is still in development. And I will update you guys on that, obviously, when those things come out as well. But yeah, another fun thing to go over, but really quickly, I need to give my ass a little quick break. This chair is supposed to be ergonomic, but it's actually hurting my ass right now. So that's kind of bad. Not sure what's going on there. I don't think that's part of the ergonomics of a chair like this. Ah, Jesus Christ. When will the royal level of Patreon be available again? I'm not quite sure because all the spots are actually taken. That's the thing. I was thinking about possibly doing a food lesson tier. That would be a 3-hour thing monthly, but obviously that would be too many lessons, so I'll have to figure that out. But yeah, because usually 1-hour lessons are just not enough to really go through stuff. What if you stack multiple of those self-FMs on top of each other? It'll probably go really crazy. Can we use the spaces for house music? Yes, you can, of course. Hello. But yeah, I'm going to have to sit like this for a hot minute because this chair is supposed to be helping my back and my ass, but it's doing the opposite right now, which is kind of odd. Other things is the sample pack volume 14. I've done a bunch of really cool stuff in here, including some really nice claps that I'll be playing over here. Even though you guys should be able to hear these, right? If I play these, you guys hear these? Let me check. Yeah, you guys can hear these. Perfect. I've got a bunch of really cool sounding claps here. And a bunch of really hard-hitting kick drums. Lots of kick punch layers, and these are really fun. So the way you want to use these is if we do a quick little drop here. I'm just going to use... Just going to make a short little thing here. That's D sharp. I'm gonna layer one thing in here. Obviously, that's layering this up, so I'm going to take that out. As you can see, I'm currently working in VR, so I'm still as fast as usual, which is obviously very important. I'm going to bring in these hard kick drums from the sample pack bundle, which initially were supposed to be really hard hitting, but they ended up not really being that. Let me copy the kickstart over here. And then I'm going to write down one of those kick drums. So I'm going to go drums, kicks. I'm going to actually pick... yeah, I'm going to pick those kick hearts. So these were initially supposed to be hard hitting because of the transient, but I've noticed that one core feature this was missing. And also the beginning of the body here is not really pitching a whole lot. But it's a good baseline to start off with. So if I paste this, I'm going to add a clap, of course. I might actually just do like a snare tail in this case, because I think that will sound nicer. So we'll do a tail. But we might actually want to add a clap too, and we'll see. Just do volume. We're going to add a little bit of saturator to that to make it a little bit louder. I'm going to add another loop layer. Sweet, that sounds cool. Let's add one more layer. I'm going to add that second bass right here. And I'm going to take out the Lord. Probably scoop out the mids here, because I don't need the mids in this one. And then maybe we can choose a different bass. That's cool. Let's move this. Move it a little bit back. Now, what I wanted to mention is, I'm going to make that shorter there, is that this kick drum let's turn on the band here real quick. I'll do the low end sidechain here as a last thing, and then we're done. Now that kick drum is hitting quite nicely, but the issue is that it doesn't have enough punch in the mids. So for example, if you take a look at volume 13, hope you can actually still see me. No, I'm actually like, there we go. As you can see, from the pack volume 13, all these kick drums are heavy. If I bring these in, and then volume 14 also has some really hard-hitting drums. Listen to all that mid punch right there. So what I've done is from these new kick drums, I've designed another 10 kick drums of these. And then what I've done is I've actually just taken the sine sweep from the very beginning, and this was the important layer that I was missing, is this big sweep from like up to 20 kilohertz down right in the beginning. And this isn't really a kick drum. This is only roughly 36 milliseconds. So what you can do is you can actually layer these with kick drums that would otherwise miss or lack some punch. So if I take a kick drum here, I'm going to go back to kicks. Kick hard. Those were supposed to be hard. If you want them to be even harder or punch even harder, you can just layer them with one of these kick punch layers. Now, obviously, you might be getting some phase cancellation due to layering them on top. But the benefit is that a lot more punch is coming through. So if I just add a V-clip after the whole thing, this is without that punch layer. And now I'm putting it on. I can bring in a different punch layer. Let me turn off the snap. And it almost transforms all these kick drums to be so much harder hitting. And obviously you can layer these in, so I can make them quieter. And bring them in like this. And if you take a look at Vision 4X here, you can see that the kick drum still looks quite nice. If we solo it, you can see that this is still very much a usable kick drum. We just have a lot more stuff happening right at the beginning of the kick drum. So let's actually push this a little harder into it. Maybe one. So you can see without it, and then with it, then we can gradually bring it in. And this also means that we can now replace this kick drum. So for example, let's use maybe this one. Has a nice amount of punch, and let's bring in the kick punch layer. Let's take the fade out. Now, not all kick punch layers will work with all kick drums, so you might want to try a different one. Oh, that one's heavy. So you can see you can make all of these kick drums super, super heavy. Which is lovely. Yeah, those are the kick punch layers. They're all incredibly useful to make really heavy kick drums with. And then obviously you get a bunch of really cool snare drums as well. So if I play all of these, they also have some really strong punch. So I can, for example, just bring this one in and then remove the saturator. Bring in a note. Make that thing louder, of course. I'm going to replace the little color bass, FM bass layer that we have here with something else. Whoops, like that. I think that's the one we used. Let's use this one. I like that one. So you can hear the snare drum there, and then yeah, they all just punch, right? They all just cut through, which is what I love about these drums. And then after that, you get some spectral loops. So these spectral loops were essentially just processed with a bunch of spectral effects. So there's some really cool sort of tonality and character to them. You also get 5 spectral hi-hats. And then you get a bunch of spectral kicks and spectral snares. And once again, these are all primarily made with spectral processing. And there's a lot of variety here. I still had to make sure that at least the body of the kick drum was fairly usable. That's always very, very difficult with spectral effects. And then the snare drums just go absolutely cuckoo. These are nuts. So, for example, what we can do is we can run all of these basses here. Let's run them all through a spectral gate. So, spectral gate. And it's to saturate them. And then I'm going to replace the cymbals with some spectral cymbals. And maybe I'll use some hi-hats here too. Another layer. And then for the kick and snare, I'm going to use a spectral kick and a spectral snare. For example, this kick drum and then a random. Turn all of that stuff up. Listen to that. How cool is that? So you get this really, really unique sound selection. I'm going to run this through. I'm going to run this through some retune and see if maybe we can do some cool stuff here. Retune, we are D sharp, chromatic minor. And let's boost the whole thing. Let's make it even longer here. Let's make it. Yeah, lovely stuff. Let's replace the drums. Let's pick a different spectral snare. And a different spectral kick. Let's do a little bit more on the. Let's play around with that again. Let's go a little lower again. my snare at? But yeah, lots of cool little things that you can do. We can also pitch this down. Yeah, just tons of fun to be had here. Let's make these ring out a little longer. Let's pick a different. Let's go basses, tonal, glitches, D sharp minor. I'm going to use this one. Yeah, just tons of fun to be had. Let's play the drums. And obviously you can do any rhythms that you would like and maybe add noise to the sub. Oh yeah, you could totally do that. For sure. Let's just add a noise. But maybe let's add a noise to just the sub, as that would make more sense. So we're going to grab a multipass and a snap heap, and we're going to load up user and noise. Oops, that's not a noise. There we go. And let's boost that. I'm going to grab auto filter. It might be a little bit aggressive on some of the resonances, so I'm going to use a soothe here. And maybe instead of a saturator, we'll be using a smart clipper, because that one makes a little bit more sense for this scenario. There we go. So we can now, for example, do a little resample of that. Of 11 group. I might actually be too high. No, I'm fine. Okay, cool. And then we can just do Complex Pro. Pick a different bass here. Let's do something like that. Let's bring in a nice and smooth smooth top layer. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do some really cool stuff here with this one. I'm going to give it some reverb. Actually, let's give it some delay, because that one will just sound better. Ping pong, repitch. And then I want to run this through a shifter. Probably over here, delay goes over there. And then I want to run this through a retune. So I'm just going to copy the retune that we had in here for the space. I'm not using the Physian MK2 rack here because this isn't like a crazy process in this case. This is just let's go to effects. Let's add some nice little effects. Let's go to back effects. I'm going to add that one, and then it's all supposed to be kind of spectrally based, so I'm going to make sure that that's the case. I'm going to copy the retune again, paste it in there. I'm going to use a simple snap heap. I'm going to use an LFO, put it to sync, and then look at how fast I can work, still in VR. Look at that. Just breezing through the system. Might have to move the snap heap before. Bam, 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 bam. One after the other. Bump, 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 bump. Maybe use it different. Maybe like that. Yeah, there you go. And now all we have to do is just switch out the drums and see if any of the other spectral snares work well with this. Maybe we want to go a little bit slower. Let's go with 100 and... Let's go with 100 and... No. 134. Why not, right? Everything is going to be messed up in time, but that's fine because we can just stretch everything. Take these, repitch them. Oh, wait, that's possible? Okay. And now we can put something in between that will sound really, really cool. I want to go with a simple glitch. I think I'm going to use a face plant in here because it's going to be so much easier to do it with that. So I'm going to do a C note and oops. Stretch that out all the way, and then I'm going to go ahead and load in a granular. I'm going to shorten the grain envelope, and then I'm going to switch this to synced mode to be 116. And then I'm just going to pick a random, let's do a spectral glitch on the bottom. And then I'm going to do an LFO, and then I'm going to scan through the waveform here on sync. So into probably, let's do reverse because that'll probably sound a little bit cooler. That might be a little bit too fast. Yeah, let's make it slower. No, that was actually correct. pitch it up. Give it some power within power. Let's cut out the low end. And let's send Spectral Scaler in there to do the rest. And then we just pick a different sample. Now, it feels like this isn't really on time. It feels like it's kind of off. Nope, it's actually directly on time. Why does it sound different then? I think my battery might be empty. 1 second, I'm checking. Yeah, it could be. So I'll just plug in the next one. Easy peasy. And there we go. You got to finish this and upload. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Sounds kind of like melodic terror. That's dope. Thank you. Yo, that retune sounds so good. Never heard of that. Oh, you had never heard of that. Never heard of retune, huh? That's interesting. It does feel kind of off, which is strange. So let's make it a little. Okay, let's just not do this. I'll make it make it slower. Make it really slow, really fast. I mean. There you go. Then what I want to do is add some noise layer to. Like it's fairly full, but I'm going to add a AP trigger, which should be effects AP trigger free. I'm going to make this a parallel so I can process it parallel. I'm going to bring in, I'm going to be really careful with this step. I'm going to bring in a miscellaneous pink noise stereo. This thing's 20 seconds long, so I don't want to play this just yet. I want to go to the envelope here and just turn this down. I'm going to lengthen this. There we go. When I go to the detector, I'm going to add a bandpass. I'm going to turn up the... There we go. I'm going to turn up the width here as well. So we can retrigger from those mids. Let's make it really loud so we can hear it. There we go. Now we got pink noise retriggering from the sample. Do your eyes hurt from VR? No, not at all. My eyes are totally fine. And then what I want to do is I want to probably track this dry signal and do some ring modding from that. So I'm going to go ring mod, where you at? There we go. We're at 16 audio, so I'm going to go 16 audio. I'm going to go to the dry channel post effects. I'm going to pick that as the input 3+4. And then the sub will be modulating the noise. It's going to make it very nice and crunchy. And then I'm going to add a high pass. And then that just layered. Make it a little bit louder. This adds a lot more high-end information. I think we have to high pass it even further. We have to take less ring bar here. Let's make the waveform a little bit shorter, the envelope here. I'm going to freeze and flatten this. I'm going to duplicate the first three like that. So we have a little bit of a repeating pattern. Sweet. Then we have some really cool little drop here. And obviously we can replace the spectral drums here with some hard-hitting drums as well. Oh yeah, VR will be the new big thing. I mean, it has been for a while, just not for the right applications, I feel like. I mean, gaming is great, but like productivity, man, saving on that much money when it comes to virtual screens, that's amazing. I feel like the mids here are a little bit too long, so I'm going to make this shorter. I'm going to try and make it shorter at least. Because I feel like there's too much space being occupied by that main. Here I'm going to add one final VFX. And I shifted before. Yeah, super clean. I love it. Sweet. Cool. My first live attendance. Been watching your content on Patreon for like a year plus. What did you spotlight so far today? A lot. I spotlighted a lot, and unfortunately, probably just arrived right when I was about to finish up and wrap up because I need to get this chair figured out that I got initially for when I had my pilonidal cyst. I got this ergonomic chair, and now that my cyst is almost, or the wound is almost completely healed, I'm noticing that the chair isn't really that great for my like lower back. So I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on there. Because my tailbone area is starting to hurt quite a bit from using this chair. And I'm going to have to figure out what's going on. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm in a little bit of pain right now, so I'm gonna be wrapping up this stream. That was quite a lot of to digest, though. What we've talked about today, and it was a lot of fun. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching me go through all the news, because it was certainly fun for me. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. I'm gonna mainly focus the title and stuff on working in VR with the new speaker system that I managed to research and develop, and then make this the one kind of video, hopefully promoting this sort of workflow, and hopefully this will help out a lot of people who obviously are comfortable working in VR to not only benefit from multi-monitor support, but also all the other benefits like ergonomics, which is quite important as well. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. This was super fun for me. Next time, and probably 2 weeks, we will be making music again, which has been a while, of course. We might be working on stuff that I've already worked on in the past and wrap things up. Or we might start something new, or we'll do like a challenge. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the Friday live stream, and I will see you guys next time. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.